A lot of men think that the only way to last in bed is to have very slow, soft, meditative sex. But what if I told you that you can have wild, intense, vigorous, animalistic sex and still have complete ejaculation control? In this video, I'm going to show you how to unlock that ability and how mastering it is going to completely change everything about your sexual experience. Let's get into it. I'm Jonathan White. I've helped thousands of men from around the world learn to master their sexual energy and create an epic life. Make sure you hit subscribe to stay notified when new content like this is available, and get my free ejaculation control ebook. There's a link in the video description so you can attain legendary ejaculation control. And I want to mention that I'm releasing my new book, Male Sexual Mastery Secrets, very soon. I'm extremely excited for it. It's going to be the manual for male sexual mastery. And if you're watching this in the future, it may already be available, so there will be a link for that if so. What a lot of men have been asking me is, Jonathan, this is great. I'm practicing sexual kung fu. I'm learning how to have non-ejaculatory orgasms, develop ejaculation control, circulate sexual energy through my body, and practice semen retention. But I have a really hard time doing this while having vigorous sex. Is it possible? Is it possible to do it during vigorous sex? And the answer is yes. It is. And I'm calling this advanced ejaculation control for a reason. Now, to be honest, pretty much everything I'm teaching you in sexual kung fu is completely advanced compared to the average material that's out there. What most people are teaching about sexual mastery is just very surface level. It's not going to take you very deep. So having said that, when it's advanced in sexual kung fu, you know it's real advanced, okay? What advanced simply means here is that you're applying this to intense, vigorous, passionate, animalistic sex. You're having rough sex and you're controlling ejaculation, you're experiencing full body circulation of sexual pleasure, and you're retaining your semen throughout it, at least most of the time. This is the real advanced realm here, okay? And it's funny because when I was training in this, I was learning about tantric sex and Taoist sexual techniques. And it seemed like a lot of this was supposed to be applied to where you have sex in a very soft, very slow, and meditative way. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That could be a dramatically new way of experiencing sex for a lot of people. But there came a point where I was like, actually, specifically, when early on in my sexual kung fu training, when I dated a woman who, we'll just say that slow sex wasn't going to cut it for her. She wanted it hard, she wanted it rough. Basically, this is where I really learned to put all the sexual kung fu techniques into a very intense sexual dynamic, okay? And that's where I got really good at ejaculation control, and that's where I really learned a lot of the principles I'm going to share with you guys. I was in the field doing it myself, and I've been able to help a lot of other men do exactly the same thing. So the most important thing to understand as to why you aren't able to do this in the first place, because this should be a natural skill for men, it seems like, but it's not. And the reason that is the case is because of porn conditioning. It's because of our early masturbation experiences. Essentially, you trained in a response in your mind and body that led you to ejaculate quickly. Porn overstimulates you. And a lot of men are very disconnected from what's happening in their minds and their bodies. They're so focused on what's happening out here. And what's happening out here during sex tends to pull you out of yourself, overexcite you, and lead you to ejaculation. So the whole thing here is retraining. Retraining yourself to have a strong centeredness. You're centered within yourself so that even amidst all this intense sensation and external excitement, you got it. You're cool, you're calm, you're grounded, okay? So just a little foundation for what we're about to go into. All of this is training. It's retraining yourself from tension-based response to a relaxation-based response through the parasympathetic nervous system circuit. I've talked about this a lot in other videos. Some principles here. We'll get into the principles, we'll get into the meat of this. Mind, body, energy. These are the three things we're going to be really talking about. So with mind, everything starts in the mind. Everything is about your mental state when it comes to sex. And there's a line from the movie The Matrix, which is extremely applicable here. When Morpheus is training Neo, he says to him, "Don't think you are, know you are." There's a confidence there. And it's exactly the same thing during sex. When you go into sex being like, well, I hope I do okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe I got it. Maybe I don't. There's an uncertainty there. You have to know, I'm going to bring it. There's a confidence. There's a presence within that. Now, this is something that comes with experience. But just having that thought form, going into it thinking, I got this. And it can't be a fake it till you make it sort of thing here. Because when you're in the heat of the moment, your mental state is everything. When you go into, uh-oh, am I doing things right? I think I'm going to ejaculate. I don't know for that. There's the self-doubt, pulls you out of your center. You're off the rails. When you can hold the state of, I got this. it may not be as difficult as you think. It's really about letting go. It's about letting go of the negative self-talk. It's about letting go of the, but what if? This is why I think meditation is an important foundation of sexual kung fu practice, because you've got to really build this centered mind to where even when things are chaotic around you, people are yelling and screaming at you, you're having intense, vigorous sex, your woman's orgasming and screaming like a primal animal, you've got to have this centeredness or else you're going to ejaculate. You know what I mean? So the mind here, a lot of men are stuck in their heads. They're stuck in this worry, this overthinking mode. And you've got to get into your body. Think of it as like becoming an animal again. You want to make love to this woman, to make love to your partner. You want to ravage them. And it's a body experience. There's nothing to think about, to rationalize, what if this, what if that. Once you start doing that, you get in your head, your nervous system gets into fight or flight mode, and it's a countdown till ejaculation. But when you get into your body, you trust your body's innate primal capacity to have sex, to be a sexual being. You get into a pure realm of feeling and out of this self-doubt and worry mode. So cultivate that state of centered confidence. It's a, I got this feeling. And that will come with practice. So the next thing we want to talk about here is the body. There's certain things you must do with your body. And the first one, there's kind of two subcategories within this I'm going to focus on. We'll kind of subdivide body into important focal points. Number one being breath. Breath is it's a physical thing. You physically breathe. But breath is the primary mechanism of managing both your nervous system and your internal energy state, in a certain sense. So as the sex intensifies, so too must your breathing. You must breathe deeply from the belly. Fill it up. Exhale, fill up your lungs, and exhale. When things are getting intense, you know, if you're holding your breath or you're breathing really shallow, it's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. You've got to breathe intensely and fully. Make some sound. That deep diaphragmatic breathing, that expansion, that filling up of your abdomen, your diaphragm expanding, your pelvic floor expands as well when you breathe properly. That is going to create a movement of nervous system information, of qi, internal energy. It's going to balance your nervous system. So you must amp up your breathing. And another thing here, relaxation. Relax. Now this may sound paradoxical because I'm talking about having intense, vigorous sex. So it's like, well, Jonathan, how could I be doing that if I'm just limp? You know, do I move like a noodle? So this is really coming from a Taoist concept, which is the yin within the yang. Externally, you're engaged. You're going to pound town. You're screwing your partner's brains out. But internally, there's this release. It's a release. There's a specific training called Zhan Zhuang, which is standing meditation practice and postures, where you hold a shape and relax unnecessary tension that's not required to hold your body in that shape. And, you know, because pretty soon your shoulders tense up, you get tired, but you see how much you can relax and let go through that. So we apply this to physical movements because as I'm moving and engaging, I start to realize, wait, I don't need to be squeezing my pelvic floor. I don't need to have my abdomen super contracted. I don't need to have my face all tense and tight. You start to release these layers of tension because tension activates the fight or flight response. Physical tension constricts your nervous system and puts you in fight or flight state. And fight or flight is exactly linked to the ejaculation function. It's part of that sympathetic nervous system fight or flight response, the ejaculation response. The biggest place to relax tension is your pelvic floor. If you can keep your pelvic floor relaxed during vigorous sex, you will not ejaculate, period. But that becomes a difficult thing for a lot of men, especially because most men have some level of tension pattern ingrained into the pelvic floor during the sexual response. And I've talked about this in a lot of other videos, but one thing I'll share with you is you want to drive your movements from your glutes. So you think of engaging the glutes to push your sexual thrusting and you relax. Keep the pelvic floor relaxed. So you're breathing, the full proper breathing, think of breathing into your pelvic floor, expanding it to keep it relaxed. You're pumping from the glutes. You're breathing fully and intensely, making some sound. You got some good foundations. And another aspect of mind here, maybe we're going back a bit, but it's important now that we have some physical foundations, talk a bit about another mental quality here, which is not being hyper-focused on the genitals. Now this will vary because obviously if you're in a state of low arousal and there's low pleasure, focusing more on your genitals will increase that. But for most men, there's already too much focus down here of like, Yeah, there's a lot of sensation. I feel it building up to ejaculation. Oh shit, I'm going to ejaculate. And just this hyper focus on that. Where the mind goes, the chi flows. I remember there was one time I'm having sex with a woman. You know, we're going to town. It's quite vigorous, and I'm feeling the buildup. And early on in my journey of sexual kung fu, I was just trying things out. I was just trying random things. You know, a lot of what I teach you guys now comes from just all this experimentation I did. There was one time in particular where I was like, what if I just forget about my penis? What if I just completely forget about everything that's down here and just feel my spine, just feel the rest of my body moving and pumping? And as soon as I did that, there was no more buildup in my genitals because my mind was focused on other areas of my body. So it's like you have to kind of forget about all the excitement, all the friction that's happening down there by occupying a different region of the body with your mind. Think about other areas of the body. Just forget about your penis for a little bit, at least when things are getting more vigorous, when you want to have periods of very strong control. And if you want to feel more pleasure, amp it up a bit, go back to feeling your penis. And now the third principle here is energy. Energy is really about circulating sexual sensations. And to use this diagram I've drawn over here, the whole thing is that when you're having sex, there's this buildup of excitement in the pelvic floor. That's what this red corresponds to. It's all this tension, this nervous system information excitement, because the penis is being stimulated, there's friction, and is generating all this, tension. For most men, this builds to a maximum, and then it has to be released out the penis. And you ejaculate, which feels great, but then you're spent, son, you can't continue. So the whole thing here with energy, you want to open up a different pathway so that this pressure can be constantly released. Think of it as this is like a pressure cooker, and there's all the steam that's being pressurized inside. Eventually it's going to seek an escape valve, which is the penis for most men, but you're opening up the secondary valve upwards, up into the body, up into the rest of the body. Now there's specific pathways I've talked about, but we don't need to worry about that for now. Just think about releasing it upwards, up into the brain, up into the organs, everywhere. This is one of the main principles of sexual kung fu, is energy circulation. You're allowing that tension, the sexual excitement to constantly be circulated and introduced into the rest of the body. And guess what? This is how the rest of your body starts to have orgasms. This is how you start to have full body orgasms without ejaculating. Because when you have all this tension in the lower body, especially in the pelvic floor region, it constricts the arousal and the pleasure into the genital region. But through opening it up through sexual kung fu practice, now it's in the rest of the body. Again, where the mind goes, the chi flows. Simply by holding your mind in these other regions of the body, the energy is going to go there. And there's specific techniques we use in sexual kung fu to intensify this process. You want to start thinking about your body as a sexual energy pump. A sexual energy pump, because there is certain physical mechanisms. The glute pumping is a very simple one that I've shared with you, but to get this arousal to be introduced to the rest of the body instead of only stuck in the genitals, we need to pump. We need to allow the pumping movement of the body to encourage this orgasmic energy to move through the entire body. So when your movements, your physical movements are pumping this energy upwards, that's another mechanism to completely control ejaculation. And this movement intensifies, obviously, when you're having vigorous sex. If you want me to make a video on specifically how to pump sexual energy up the spine, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to make that video for you guys. But a simple takeaway here is think of sweeping your mind. With every inhale, move your mind up the body. Just move your mind upwards. And then as you exhale, move your mind down the body. So just like scanning the body up and down. This is a very basic beginner level method that will start to circulate your sexual energy through the body. So now we have all these principles and we want to have them all incorporated together. So your mind is in a state of, you're in a state of confidence. Look at my face, look at my face. The face says it all. If I'm going into sex and I'm like, do I look confident? Probably not. I don't feel very confident, but if I get my tiger eyes, my confident gaze, the face says it all. So you can practice this in a mirror and then bring this feeling internally. It's a fuck yeah sort of feeling. It's a fuck yeah, I got this. The more you cultivate this feeling of, yeah, I got this, you bring that into sex the whole time. You're in the state of, I got this. I'm enjoying myself. So that's the mental quality, is one of this fuck yeah state of confidence. And in the body, you're breathing deeply, you're relaxing, especially the pelvic floor, you're releasing excessive layers of tension, you're moving from the glutes. And energetically, You're sweeping your mind through the body. You're allowing the energy to be integrated through your whole nervous system, your whole entire body. This is causing a full body buildup of pleasure instead of an urgency to ejaculate. And so when you're doing these things together, you become an orgasm generator. Even when you're having intense, vigorous sex, you're sustaining it, which puts you in a state of ecstatic bliss. It's like a meditative absorption, a term commonly used in a lot of the Eastern paths. This meditative absorption, which is a state of complete presence in the moment, complete openness. The mind's quiet and you're just in a samadhi type of state. Well, you do this during sex, whew, that's when things get intensely pleasurable, psychedelic, and you can sustain this for very, very long periods of time. And this is what makes sexual practice an art of longevity, an art of healing, an art of immense fulfillment and pleasure. And you don't ejaculate at the end. If you're not familiar with the concept of semen retention, watch some of my other videos on this. But when you maintain that charge throughout, you go out into the world, you create from that, with that energy, you put it into other things. Now you're transmitting your sexual energy. Now you are a creator god. Straight up. That is the ultimate power. That is the ultimate potential of this path of sexual kung fu. And when you have that, no one can take it away from you. Now I also want to mention that I feel that self-pleasure is a very important pillar on this journey of sexual kung fu, because you got to train this stuff. You got to train it outside of sex. You've got to train within yourself. You've got to really work on each quality. This is what sexual kung fu is about. It's about progressive training through all these layers. And we do things very strategically. We do it in a very organized way. So you practice using self-pleasure, practice incorporating all these things I've talked about just into your self-pleasure sessions. You can use a mirror as a way of practicing presence within yourself, looking at your face, just noticing, okay, how am I engaging myself? I'm my own sexual partner as I look in the mirror. That could be a powerful way to practice this. And just notice, as I amp up sexual stimulation, can I incorporate these things and maintain control of my ejaculation? And just remember, sexual kung fu is a journey. It's a path of cultivation. Kung fu means a skill or quality of mastery developed from consistent, dedicated training. So this isn't like an overnight thing. Don't go into your next sex session and be like, oh, I completely failed, this doesn't work. It's a journey. Put the pieces together, train with it consistently, and you're going to experience immense transformation in your life and your sexual experience. All men deserve to have incredibly fulfilling sex lives filled with confidence, pleasure, and radiant vitality. And it's my mission to help you all to attain this. So hope I've been of service to you. Comment below if you want me to make that video on how to pump energy up your spine. The next thing I recommend is that you watch a video I made, which is going to teach you specifically how to retrain your pelvic floor to overcome this involuntary contraction that's causing premature ejaculation. So that will help you dive into an even more nuanced aspect of what I'm talking about in this video. So check out that video, put a link to it, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like, and have a great day, my friends. Best wishes on your journey.